Hey guys, I'm the 50s kid. That is an E46 BMW behind me, and in this video, we're gonna change spark plugs. Real easy job, basic maintenance that anyone can do. So let's get started. Remove the microfilter cover by giving these fasteners a quarter turn. Also remove the microfilter. Remove the 4 number 30 Torx screws. Unsnap this wire cover with your fingers. And remove it. Pull these wires out, and then you can remove the microfilter housing. Use a small pocket screwdriver to pull the covers off of the bolt holes. There's one in the front and one in the back. Unscrew the 10mm bolts front and back, then remove the top engine cover. Repeat the same process for this engine cover, 2 covers, front and back. Then loosen the 2 10mm nuts. Remove the oil filler cap. Then you can remove the engine cover and replace the filler cap. So I'm going to demonstrate on cylinder number 1. What you're going to need is a spark plug socket. A spark plug socket is actually a special socket. It's got a little piece of rubber on the inside, and that basically grabs onto the spark plug and lets you retrieve it from the spark plug tube. You can use a spark plug socket, or you can just use a regular deep wall socket and then use a magnet to reach in and get the spark plug out. I prefer the magnet method just because I don't really like the little rubber thing for whatever reason. It's just personal preference, but either one will work. First off, let's remove the coil. It's just 2 10mm bolts on either side. Make sure you pull those bolts all the way out. Then we're simply going to lift this clip up, and then you can just disconnect the coil just like that. Pull the coil up and just set it off to the side. So now we're just going to loosen the plug. I'm using a 16mm deep wall socket, which is the same as a 5/8. My spark plug socket is actually a 5/8 socket, so either one will work. It's basically the same thing. You want to use your wrench to get the plug loose. Don't use power tools to do this. You can use power tools to remove a spark plug socket after you've cracked it, I think, and but you never want to use power tools to reinstall, because that's just dangerous. You risk stripping them out, and that's the number one thing that you don't want to do when you change spark plugs, is you don't want to strip them. You don't want to make them overly tight and strip out the threads, because most cylinder heads these days are made out of aluminum and they're very easy to strip. So just reach in there, grab your plug out. This is the proper plug for an E46 BMW. NGK BKR6 EQUP, and their new number is 3199. So all plugs pretty much come pre-gapped these days, but with these particular plugs, you don't gap them at all. There's no adjusting the gap on these. Something I recommend you do on all spark plugs, even if you're in a part of the country which really doesn't have rust, just wipe the threads with a little bit of anti-seize, just a little dab, and that'll just save your butt in the future in case you might have problems, because after 100,000 miles, those things can get pretty crusted and rusted in there. Always thread the spark plug in by hand. You need to be able to feel if you're cross threading it. That's the one thing you don't want to do with this job, is you don't want to cross thread a spark plug. So it's all just a matter of feel. It should just easily thread in by hand. And you want to go ahead and also tighten it by hand. Now, if you don't have a feel for this, then you're going to want to get a spark plug. You're going to want to get a torque wrench, and I will put the torque on screen here. But me, I have a feel for this already. I know when I'm giving it enough torque, and I'm not going crazy with this. It doesn't have to be super tight. It's tight. I can feel when I don't really need to go any further. The thing's not going to come out of there. So there, that's all that's needed. So then we'll go ahead and drop the coil back in there, plug it back in, push the little tab down. We'll replace our screws. Those don't need to be super tight at all. They're just holding the coil down. So I'm just going to do the other 5 in the exact same way. You don't need to see it. It's the exact same thing. So reinstall the engine cover, remove the oil filler cap. Screw the two 10mm nuts down and replace the 2 caps. Reinstall the top engine cover and screw the 2 10mm fasteners down and replace the 2 caps front and back. Reinstall the microfilter housing and reinstall the 4 number 30 Torx bolts. Place these 2 wires back in their track and reinstall the cover. Put the microfilter back in and reinstall its cover. So this is a real easy job. As you saw, the hardest part about this job is making sure you don't strip out the plugs, because you're just going to be causing yourself a nightmare at that point. So yeah, just tighten until the thing stops, and that's all you need. If you have a torque wrench, use it. Other than that, if you're not a subscriber yet, please consider subscribing. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.